Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And we are so excited to have our friend back here, Serena Franchini. She's the Healing Fawn Inner Child Work Coaching and Somatic Therapy. She does it all. She's based in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia in Warriorsford, but she's helping people all over the world, right?
Yes, absolutely. Offering all my services can be done virtually, which is amazing. So you do not have to be local to work with me.
Beautiful. Is that the benefit? That's the one good thing that came out of COVID too, all this virtual work. The pleasure to get to actually meet you and speak with you. I've been looking forward to it. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do before we start.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy to be here and meet with you. So I'm my background is a nurse. So I've been a registered nurse for 15 plus years, and I've done it all, worked in all various sorts of settings, hospital settings, etc. So I always had like this, drive to
Yep,
help
clearly.
people, being in the healing profession. But a few years ago, which kind of how a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches get started, you go through things in your own personal life that help you grow and see things from a different perspective. And I kind of did this inner work myself, and started this journey about 5 years ago. And I saw the transformation it made for me and like all the things I became aware of about myself, and just made a lot of connections. And so I really wanted to share what I learned with others. And you know these holistic healing type models are fairly newish, like they're just getting to be mainstream. So when I was doing this for myself, there wasn't a lot of resources. Like I
Yeah,
really had to dig
you're one of
to,
the pioneers. Yeah,
and so I wanted to make it really easy for people that were like, okay, yes, I need to do this inner work, go through some of these memories from childhood, teenage years that went unresolved that are affecting me today, but I just don't know where to start. Like, I can guide you with my step by step approach.
well, I love the fact that you have the best of both worlds. You have that knowledge of the Western medicine, Eastern medicine, bring it all
Yeah.
together. And it's a whole set of different. I was reading this before on your website, by the way. You
Okay.
say inner wisdom is available to anyone with a quiet mind. Let's awaken your true self by healing together in a safe, empathetic space. You're worthy of an authentic, purposeful, and free life. That's so beautiful. And I just want to remind everyone they can find you on Heal Me. How do we get you specifically? We type in your name.
Heal.me/slash the healing fawn will bring you to my page where all my services are listed. So there's different packages, there's different sessions. And I also, if someone isn't sure, there we always have a discovery call where you can tell me what's going on with you and we can talk through it and see what will work best.
Love that. I know today we have some topics in store for us. Did you want to start by talking? Was it awareness? Did you want to mention first? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the first kind of step in doing any inner work. Shadow work, inner child work is awareness. And I think that's uh the kind of, I don't want to say the problem, but a barrier for a lot of people
Yeah.
to grow in today's society, in this culture that we're living in, is that people just aren't aware. And so specifically with trauma, right? So even today when I talk about trauma, people flinch, they cringe, they're like, oh, like I didn't go through like I had a great
Yeah.
childhood. Or they think trauma is this like life altering experience, and it's not. And what I like to educate on is like, we all have trauma,
Oh, we sure do.
and I kind of have a guide in that I go through in my workshops and with clients that list. I mean, it can fall even outside of that, but it kind of really shows like all of these things are trauma, and most probably every single person has one of them at some
For
point in
sure.
their life.
Absolutely.
So I like to bring the awareness and like break the stigma of the word trauma. We all have it. It's nothing to be scared of. Um, and then the other component of awareness is I talk about different family systems. Um, there's multiple different family systems that you can look at and say, okay, like, were there issues from childhood as a
Yeah.
result of these particular family systems? And some of them are really obvious, parents that maybe had an addiction, mentally ill parents, things like that. Like most of those people are aware they had trauma, but it's these other types of family systems that people are not so aware of, that there were some barriers, some lack of needs being met, specifically emotional needs,
Okay.
and not seeing the connection to potential barriers in your adult life. So, for
Well,
example,
yeah, I was going to ask for one because I have, personally, my parents fought growing up
mhm.
to the point where I don't trust men. I have my own issues from that. Talk about childhood trauma. My dad had drug addiction, so I could empathize with this. But I'm interested to know, like, what type of underlying traumas that we don't really see. Tell me. This is interesting.
So, yeah, so the ones that I think I like to bring awareness of are the perfectionistic
Okay.
types of families and the militaristic types of family.
Oh, yeah.
So where, on the outside you had a great childhood. You lived in a beautiful neighborhood, you played sports, financial issues were not a burden or anything. You had mom and dad in the house, everything looked good. But with those perfectionistic families, there's a lot of like criticism and lack of emotional needs. It's you are held to this high standard where you then build this like inner critical voice because you just
Yeah.
don't feel good enough, and you're held too high you're held too high of a standard, and there's a lack of emotional needs balancing that out. And and then like the militaristic families where it's just so rigid, again you see this lack of emotional needs.
Yeah.
And the emotional needs, like I talk about, are when a child needed comfort. Like it could be anything, like small,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you fell off your bike, you got bullied at school, you came home, you told your parents, and they just shrugged it off. Like it might not seem like a big deal now as an adult, but at the time it
It
mattered,
was huge. Yes.
and it was never resolved. You were left to deal with that. And it's crazy, but it's lingering today. It's literally still there.
Wow. Now,
Mhm.
let me ask you, what made you come from the RN side of this, having all your medical background to find the holistic way? Can I just ask, there a personal experience for you that inspired you to get here? Did you have any awareness in your life that you want to share with us?
Yes. So for me, I also, similar to what you mentioned briefly about your childhood, like very much the same. I had more of the, not what we just talked about. I had more of like the addictions, the mental illness, the, lots of screaming and arguing, and, so I knew that I had childhood, issues and trauma. And so I actively worked on it. I thought I did throughout my adult, through my 20s. Like I'd go to talk therapy, like I was able to, I wasn't in denial,
Yeah.
but talk therapy when you have trauma, it doesn't get you very far. So that's where the somatic approach comes in, because yes,
I'm like, what is the somatic approach? I want to know.
you can talk about it,
Got it.
you can talk, but anything that was traumatic that went unresolved is actually stored in your body, specifically in your nervous system. So you might feel better for the hour you're going to therapy to talk to someone who you feel comfortable with and all of that, but you're going to see the same patterns repeating in your life because you're not getting to the root of the problem, which it's in your body.
Yeah. Wow. So what is the somatic way? Explain the term, what that really means exactly, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So then so once I went through my own healing journey, and like I said, I found like I had to dig for resources. I'm like, okay, I want to do something with this and I want to learn more. So I did a certification program for mind body therapy, which basically mind body therapy, somatic therapy, they're kind of interchangeable, give or take with some differences there. But and so it's really this model where its base is like a neuroscience base, but it's also holistic base. So it's like you said, it's like these two kind of models coming together. With somatic therapy, we we provide a space where it's safe for the client to feel. So it's less about talking and it's more about feeling and
Okay.
experiencing. So but what we, like we start out with awareness, we start out with setting, boundaries,
Yep.
because you can't really do healing work if you still have, you're entangled with toxicity and unhealthy connections in your day-to-day life. You're just not going to get anywhere. You're just going to keep spinning your wheels. So awareness, looking at boundaries, and then we work with resourcing first. So before we even try to like look at a memory and sit with it, we have to give you resources so like you feel safe. If something is too triggering, we know how to bring ourselves back to a safe place. So that's like the steps. And so resourcing can be, meditation, mindfulness, grounding,
Yep.
centering, breath work, all of those things, and more. And then once we feel like we have these tools, then I work with someone on a particular memory. So, and it
Wow.
depends specifically on what their needs are. And so we work with a particular memory. I continue to like check in with what is going on in the body. Like, what are you feeling right now? And so, for example, it might be, I feel hot. My face feels hot. My chest is tightening up. Like, okay, like let's sit with that. Let's
Yep.
see where does that go? And we work with it, and believe it, it's fascinating how it will start to morph and transform into other areas. Or what are you feeling now? What are you thinking? And different thoughts, different emotions come up. And so it's this process of sitting with, being with feelings that we haven't sat and felt with, and letting
Got it.
them move around and work with them.
Wow. And let's remind everyone how we can reach out to you if you don't mind. Tell us the best forms of contact.
Yeah, so you can follow me on, so TikTok's like my main social media platform. I love TikTok. I
I got
love,
to get more into that. I have not. I have to, but I hear that's like the latest and greatest, right?
and it's like it's so good to share like information, and tips and awareness. Like I
And
love
it's
it
quick.
for this.
It's quick.
Yep. So at TikTok at the Healing Fawn, Instagram at the Healing Fawn, my my site to book coaching, heal.me/the Healing Fawn. And then I actually just um, finished my guided workbook. So for people that aren't like necessarily ready to just do the work or join a workshop, you can actually purchase my workbook digitally to kind of walk
Great.
through. And that's on my website,
The new website, the Healing Font.
The
Good.
Healing
Awesome.
Fawn.
Congratulations. And also there's a t-shirt line. Is that what you have on today? I was trying to look.
Yes. So this one,
Beautiful.
Be the Light. And so they're just like little inspirational messages
Positive. Uh-huh.
and
Affirmation.
images, like looking at like images that are soothing is actually another resource. So I like to put on like just pictures and images and words that are
I love it.
inspiring.
I love it. Be the light. Beautiful. Also, do you want to touch upon relationships today from not just parenting aspect, but relationships in general? And again, I apologize for my nose being so stuffy. You know why?
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, is she going to be there today? um, so, okay, yeah. So this is another big component, which it all kind of links together. But we're right now in this culture, in this generation, we're seeing so many relationships issues, failed relationships. This dating culture is like insane, right? Like of like just these crazy things that men are experiencing with like ghosting and all of
Yes.
these like unbelievable like things that go on in these toxic relationships and these um like everybody's a narcissist, or I'm this and you're that, and it's like wait a minute, like how
Relationships.
common,
Yep.
why is this so overly common, like all of a sudden in the last 10-15 years, right? And my theory is that the baby boomer generation of parents really just didn't have the skills for emotional needs,
Yep.
to provide that, right? It was kind of like, you're on your own, figure it out, like, you know what I mean? Like, mostly a generality, but um, so we have now these products of that didn't have emotional needs, didn't have security. So you have people that have avoidant tendencies. You have people that have attachment like issues, anxiety issues as a result of these lack of emotional needs. And
Yep.
it's not to blame the parent. They only knew what they knew at the
They
time.
didn't. Exactly.
So so we see these relationship issues and divorce rates, skyrocketing. And so it's really important to take, if you haven't taken a look at the link between childhood and your relationship patterns.
Oh gosh, I have. Ooh, not good. And I've never got through that. I'm 44, still single. So I think I get over it, but it never goes away.
Yeah. I mean that's like literally like ideally like, I think this
The
work
type of
can
people you
really
can help.
help
Yep.
bring things to the surface and understand so much more about yourself and why you're, making the choices that you make with people and just getting to a better place to ultimately have a successful, healthy relationship. So really when it comes to like that, like talking about relationships, I think that whether you're in one that's having issues or you've tried and you want to be in a healthy relationship but you just keep seeing the same barriers and patterns, this is a really great model and tool to work with to maybe get somewhere that you haven't gotten before with regular talk therapy or the things you've tried already.
Beautiful. Let me ask you specifically on the Heal Me website and your website as well. What specific services do you offer and how does it work? Does it start with like an initial consultation call? Do you offer like a free initial consult to see if it's a good fit?
Yes. So I totally will do that if someone looks through the services and they're like, I just don't know.
Yep.
I definitely have the discovery call or clarity call, whatever you want to call it, on there. Um, and then there's various packages. So if someone just wants to do somatic therapy, like they're like, I'm not ready to do like inner child work yet, like it's a little too deep, but I do want to start connecting to my body and understand what's going on. There's one-on-one, individual or packages for that. Then my main package is my inner child work with somatic therapy.
Okay.
That's a 6 session package, with the first session being where I do assessments together with you. So it's not like, hey, here, fill out this paperwork like you would. Like this is some hard stuff. So we
Yeah.
work together to do some of these assessments for me to custom make the rest of the 5 sessions specifically to your needs. Um, I also do have a relationship, inner child work relationship session package as well. So, like we were just talking about, if you're specifically just wanting to focus on your relationship issues, whether as a couple or as an individual, I have packages just for that.
Yep.
And there's some other, nervous system regulation, movement pieces that people can do as well individually. Um, and they're also added into the packages themselves.
Great. And would you mind if I just inquired a little more about you? Your own personal relationship, you're very open with that. You were married, divorced, and is this part of your childhood trauma that you think brought you here? Would you mind sharing that? Only because I read in the notes. Just want to make sure it's okay. You're an
Yeah,
open book, right?
yes, I totally am.
Good.
And like I love using myself as like an example,
Yep.
but so to try to summarize it, my family structure was like I was more of like this rescuer role. My mother daughter
You know.
relationship was
Yep.
almost altered. So like
Ah,
I was more,
opposite. You were the mother figure. She was the
yeah,
same here. Totally can relate. Yes.
yeah. So that was the dynamic the whole time. And I never, you don't really know what you don't know. So you like, it's not that you think, is this normal or not normal? This is life. This is just the way it is. And never thought anything of it. Like, I'm Italian. So like Italian culture, you're like, you take care of the parents,
Yep.
and like you do for the parents. And so it just seemed like this is just the way it is. Not realizing the stress, how dysregulated my nervous system was from having to fix all of her issues all the time and, being almost like her personal assistant, and so, so and with that as a child, I didn't actually realize that I had like needs because my focus was always on someone
Our
else.
needs and
Yeah.
yes, got it.
So as I grew up and became an adult, like that's what I really like did in relationships. Like as long as someone was like okay and like they weren't a bad like person per se, like it wasn't like, okay, here are my needs and can you meet them? It just I didn't
You
know
were
that.
the nurturer, you were taking care of everyone else before you, which is something we all tend to do. I get it. Yep.
Yeah. So then the person I ended up marrying, you know, even if you would have looked at it from the very beginning, like he really couldn't meet the needs that I had, but I didn't know what they were, you know? So I ended up kind of sort of in a situation where it was similar to the role I had with my mom, you know, and just doing for him and then being kind of depleted myself. And just like I said, not really even knowing that I had needs. And so as I saw this relationship start like, you know, like what is this? Like why, like how did I
Uh-uh.
get here? You know, um, and you know, ultimately it didn't work out. And then I always want to share this because it's like it's just so crazy. But so when I decided that it was ending and I was moving and we sold our house, I purchased like new construction townhouse and it was under like I had a couple of months before it was going to be ready. So
Okay.
that summer I stayed with my sister, and me and my son stayed with my sister while the house was being built, finished being built. And I had just gotten back from the courthouse, from like doing the initial like paperwork or whatever. And I come back, and you know, I'm like literally living in my sister's basement for a couple months. I'm just getting back from the courthouse. Like life is not great at the moment. And my sister's like, Mom broke her phone. Mom's cell phone broke. You have to go to the store. You have to go to the Sprint store right now and get mom's phone fixed. She doesn't have a phone. Like, what is she gonna do? And I'm like, I'm like thinking like, I don't really want to do this, but I should do this. And then I was like, and something just clicked in that
Clicked.
moment where I'm like, no,
No,
like,
what about me? What about me for
yeah, like
once?
I'm not, I literally just went through this. This was my day. I'm not going to the store, like, and doing that, like, no. And she was shocked because she, you know, didn't have any awareness of this either. Like, ultimately, my sisters and I have like figured this out.
Learned over time. Yep,
Yeah.
of
But
course.
at first she was like, what do you
Why
mean?
are you acting
Don't
that
do
way
that.
towards mom? Go do it. Come on, you're a helper. But I'm
Mhm.
sure she understands now. And now, how's the relationship with your mother now? Did it
So
heal,
boundaries,
repair, or you just have?
boundaries. So at that time, I literally said, like, I'm done. Like, you know, I can't. And I had a therapist at the time that really kind of pointed it out. Like, you're gonna keep being, if you're continuing this rescuer helper role, this is just gonna be the people you will
Yep.
attract.
Wow.
So you have to cut it at the cord, at the so
Wow.
there. So I stopped. I gave all the responsibilities. I didn't want to put it on my sister, but I was like, you know, I can't do it anymore. I need to remove myself from this cycle. So
Toxicity.
yeah. And and so I did. And honestly, like my relationship with my mom is a million times better with all of these boundaries and me not being involved in her life in that capacity. You know, so it's boundaries, it's not having my hands into anything that she's doing, and I'll see you when I see you, holidays for visits,
Yep.
whatnot. But
So
that's
you
that.
really are a testament to your own work and
Yes.
how the somatic therapy can heal someone because wow, thank you for sharing that, being so open and honest. And I'm glad that you have a son or a daughter?
I have a son,
How old is he?
Anthony. He's 9.
Oh, congrats. Mine's 5 and 7. So, oh, I feel for you. Oh, oh my God.
Oh,
You and your little guy.
yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing. What grade is he in?
He's in 4th.
Okay, he's doing well. Is he
He's doing
loving
great.
life?
He loves, yeah, he's an awesome, sweet little guy, and loves sports, super athletic, and yeah, so he's a happy, fun little
Good. He's
guy.
got a smart, beautiful mom taking care of him too. Awesome, awesome. We still have 5 minutes left of the show. What else do you want to share about you, your services, of course, anything else?
um, yeah, so I can talk a little bit about parenting because I think that's another topic that
I'm in on that one. Yes.
so One of the things that we see a lot with unresolved trauma, and again, everything I talk about, I've experienced in one way or another. So this is a total no judgment zone. But one of the things that we see a lot with unresolved trauma is how it comes out at different times, and like it's morphed in different ways. So like you might have had this like crazy like childhood with all of this chaos, and then you grow up, you're an adult, you have kids, and you're like, I'm gonna do things so differently. Like I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna, scream and yell like with my significant other, or I'm never gonna drink, or you have these things that you're just, I'm not gonna do that because of what I've been through.
Yeah.
And you usually follow those things. But if you don't heal those wounds from your childhood, they will transform and be toxic in a different way to your children. And people just don't realize that. So like one of the biggest kind of signs that you have unresolved trauma, and that you're kind of like not putting that on your kids, but like showing it, is you can go from you're like having a great time with your kids, you're laughing, you're joking, it's a great safe environment, and then like the smallest like little thing happens, like they spill some water or they drop something, and then you go like make a 360-degree turn and you're just
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
lashing out over like nothing. So it's these extremes.
Yep.
And it's very confusing for the child because they were just playing safe in a happy environment, and then all they did was like do something like really small or nothing maybe,
That set us off. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that emotional dysregulation we're then giving to the kid. So and this is that's one of the classic like signs that like, okay, like maybe I do have some things I need to work through still and work on regulating my nervous system, and that comes with kind of healing some of these unresolved issues.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. My goodness. It's a pleasure getting to meet you finally to talk. Let's remind everyone of the best ways we can get in touch with you directly, please.
Sure. So for my coaching services and sessions, heal.me/thehealingfawn, my digital products and t-shirts
and workbook
at thehealingfawn.com or www.thehealingfawn.com, and then social media at thehealingfawn as well.
Serena, Franchini, pleasure getting to talk to you today. Really, thank you so much. And I appreciate
you.
you
I hope you
talking
feel
to
better.
me under the weather like this all daysly. But I feel good, except my nose is so clogged. But really excited to work with you and to get to know you better. And again, you guys check her out, The Healing Fawn. And are we together again next week?
Yes, and I think we're going to maybe take some questions or
awesome.
whatnot. So
looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Feel better.
Thank you. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you too. Stay tuned. More of the show is coming up after the break.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.